I'm looking forward to hearing from you over the coming year about what you're going to be doing, about how life is going to be supporting you, or how the Navigating Life Empowerment class is going to be supporting you to achieve your goals, to dream loud, to dream big, and to dream in color. Now, last week rather, I shared with you about the Strategic Planning Workbook, the the workbook that I pulled together, because many of you, especially those of you who are over 40, it's super, super important that we get even more strategic and intentional about the next 5 years of your life. I want you just to type that word intentional in the chat box. Last week, I shared with you that everything you are going to do now, everything that you are going to do now is for your future. And so we want to ensure, I want you to ensure, the room wants you to ensure that we are focused, that we are strategic, that we put away the distractions, that we prioritize the key pillars of our lives, our fitness, our faith, our family, our finance, our fun, our friends, our firm. And when I talk about firm, I mean your respective businesses, because your future demands you to make progress. Your future demands you to focus in on the important things. And that's one of the reasons why I shared with you, for those of you who are looking for a mentor, for those of you who are looking for personal and professional growth, you can speak with me. Let me know. Doors for mentorship for 2026 are open, and I'll share some more information about that later on. But in last week's session, I used the strategic planning workbook as a compass. And if you think about the purpose of a compass, it's really to help give you direction. Now, I shared with you last week that on the first page of the strategic planning workbook, you have an audio work or an audio walk through, getting my tongue tied there. You've got an audio walk through of the book. So I hope by now, for those of you with the book, you would have had a chance to listen to the audio walkthrough. And I want you to think about your declaration. And we spoke about this last week, about your declaration. And your declaration is actually on page 21. On page 21, I ask you to make a declaration. Why are the next 5 years the most important to you? If you haven't done this already, you can do this now, or you can at least start to put the words in play. Of course, I'm not expecting you to finish it in this particular moment, but I do want you to think about your declaration. What is your declaration for 2026? Now, I made a declaration on my 50th birthday, that this is going to be my decade of distinction. And the reason it's my decade of distinction is because I want to accelerate progress. It's a little bit similar to what Michelle said when she spoke about her collaboration, this year being one of collaboration and working on her balance framework, increasing her number of speaking engagements, paid speaking engagements, and thinking about quality of her connections rather than quantity of connections. I want you to think about your declaration and why are the next 5 years the most important to you, and why is it important for you to be doing this NOW? Why is it important for you to be doing this now? And one of the easiest things, and I shared this last week, one of the easiest things to think about, or to make it an easier process for you to do, is think about your age. Ask yourself the question, how old am I now? How old am I going to be in 5 years? And then you can reverse engineer the process of, if this is where I'm going to be, if I'm going to be 55, or I'm going to be 60, if I'm going to be 65 in 5 years' time, what do I want that period of my life to look like? Because whatever you want that period of your life to look like, you have to start engineering the process from now. You got to start putting the pillars in place from now. So that declaration requires you then to look at, and again, this is on page 17. It requires you to look at your goals. It requires you to understand the desired outcomes. What is the thing that I want out of life? What is the thing that's going to help me become the person that I want to be? My goals, the desired outcome. What strategy do I need to employ? What targets or measurements do I need to be conscious of. And then what results am I looking for? Long gone are the days where we are just wandering aimlessly without direction. Long gone are the days where we are just wandering aimlessly without thought of tomorrow. We are being focused, we are intentional, we are being super forensic about our next steps, because we want to ensure that the outcomes, the results that we are leaning into, are the ones that we believe allow us to live out our purpose. Everybody just type the word purpose in the chat box. I want you to be intentional about your time. For those of you who, particularly for those of you who are over 40, you will know that your time, you are in your prime, but time is precious. On page 12, I write down 7 insights about your intentional strategic planning and help you to explore how you can apply this to your context. Time, listen, we know that time is precious. Under the sun, we are all equal. Under the sun, everybody has the same amount of time. Your time is precious. But here's one of the things that I realized as I stepped into my 50s, that the time that I have, or that margin for waste, or that margin for waste narrows. Strategic planning helps me ensure that my energy is spent on what really matters, not just what is urgent. For me, my faith and vision has become more central to who I am. And having that strategic plan helps protect me from drift or from burnout. If anyone has read Napoleon Hill's book Outwitting the Devil, he speaks about drifting, and drifting is, he assigns that term to people who are just wandering aimlessly, who get called to the left and to the right because they have no clear vision. And you know what the Bible says, right? Without vision, people perish. Without vision, people drift. Without vision, people settle for routines, or they settle for comfort, and they have minimum expectations. And what's even more dangerous is that they continue to do things that no longer fit. It's time that we stop doing those things that no longer fit, and maintain our alignment with our values, with our vision, and with the thing that will lead to fulfillment and to success. So last week we were speaking about this. I also helped you to kind of hone in on last week's session about your life audit. And for those of you who missed it, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you the life audit, which is on page 23 through to page 30. Let me share that with you here. So on page 23 of your workbook, 30, we have the life audit. And that life audit shares, or helps you to work through, where you are now and what it is that you are intending to do. Where you are now, and you can list this. This is the life audit, life framework wheel, and how you're able to take those respective pillars of your life, take the respective pillars of your life, and use those pillars to prepare your life audit. And in that life audit, you're asking yourself the questions: what worked well and what didn't work so well? So think about your finance, your family, your faith, your firm, your fun, your friends, and your fitness goals. And from page 23, there is space for you to answer the questions in those respective areas. What worked well and what didn't work well? Think about your fitness. Think about your faith. Think about all those things that are important to you. What's working well in those respective pillars and what isn't working so well. And then more importantly, you can do something about it. For those of you who are at a particular age in your life, think about your finance. Is your finance at a level or at a place where you want it to be? Do you have things in order? Is your pension at the place where you want it to be? Is your investment portfolio at the place where you want it to be? Is your are you spending on things on the I see many adverts talking about people who have subscriptions that they might even not know about, subscriptions that they may even not know that is still leaving their accounts on a monthly or annual basis just because they've forgotten about it. You can do a financial audit of go through your own bank account and ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself of those things that are leaving my bank account, are they necessary? Are there things that I can cancel to help myself realign or reframe my finances? Think about your goals for your family. Think about your goals for your faith. Think about your goals for your firm. Many of you are focused on increasing the revenue into your business. How are you going to do that? What things do you need to put in place? Last week, I shared with you a new AI tool that I am trialing, and I'll share the link to that again at the end of today's session. I'm trialing a new artificial intelligence tool with my partners in Atlanta. And for me, that's one of my goals, right? One of my business goals is to do more international business. And this is the first step on the ladder into doing that. I shared with you the tool because I'm running a free trial, and we've extended the free trial up until the end of February. And what the tool allows you to do is, as you answer the questions about the key components of your business, it will give you a report of the things that you need to do in your business. And I can see that some of you had activated that last week. You are able to use the tool as many times as you want to during this free trial process. And one of the reasons why we're running the free trial is because we are in the beta version. So for those of you who are in the tech world or are interested in the tech space, we launch our programs or products in the beta version so that we can test it in this particular stage. So we are still in the testing stage. But whilst we're in the testing stage, my invitation to you is that you take full advantage of the free mentoring tool so that you can use it to build your business. I'm going to share the link after today's session. It's a free tool, and I really want you to lean into this. I really want you to lean into developing new skills for 2026. I want you to lean into taking more opportunities to use artificial intelligence, to use AI to the best of your ability, to improve your efficiency, to improve your timekeeping, to improve your outputs and your outcomes. So these are some of the things that we discussed last week. These are some of the opportunities that we shared last week. And the reason why we were sharing this is because I want you to really kind of get forensic about where you are, what you're doing, how things are going to be working in your favor. How are you going to ensure that your goals, your ideas, the things that the things that you are working on will come to fruition. One of the other things that I spoke about last week, the memories that you want to create, and having SMART goals. Let's go to SMART goals first. So I shared with you the framework for all of your fitness, your faith, your family, your finance, your fun, friends, and firm. But more importantly, the framework that you can use in order to make that happen. So the thing I want us to focus on today is answering a couple of the questions at the back of the book. So if you go to the back from page 70, so from page 70, there are 25 thought-provoking, action-orientated questions, and they are grouped into those 7 key pillars. And what I'm going to do in today's session is take one question from each of those groups, and I'm gonna work through how you can answer those questions. At the end, I'm going to share with you the link to the Mentorado platform, and I'll share with you the promotion code so that you can use that to access the free program. But for now, I want you to focus on 25 action orientated, thought provoking questions. And you can almost use this as a journal type process to kind of help you think about how you get the best out of where you are right now. So, the first question I want you to think about, this is as it relates to your faith. As it relates to your faith, the first question I want you to think about is what spiritual or grounding practices, what spiritual or grounding practices do I need to strengthen to maintain my peace and clarity, especially when I'm under pressure? I'm going to repeat that question again for you. So, for those of you with the book, you're on the top of page 71, and it's question number one. For those of you who don't have the book, you can write the question down and you can answer it. What spiritual or grounding practices do I need to strengthen in order to maintain my peace and clarity, especially when I'm under pressure? And one of the reasons why this is important is because life brings you challenges. To the best of us, life comes with I think it's on the instruction manual. Life comes with challenges, and part of your strategic intention, part of your strategic goal ought to be your understanding, your level of insight into how you've got spiritual or grounding practices to help you maintain your peace and clarity, especially when you are under pressure. And if you're able to articulate that, if you're able to say to yourself, if you're able to think to yourself, when I'm under pressure, this is what I do. When I feel like I don't have clarity, or when I feel like I'm overwhelmed, these are the practices that I employ. These are the things that I do intentionally help myself to increase my capacity for more. These are the things that I do to intentionally calm myself down, to intentionally find that space where I can hear what God is saying to me in the midst of all of the noise, in the midst of everything that's going on. I am able to do all things through Christ because he's my strength, because I am able to find that place of peace. I am able to find that place of calm. I am able to put myself intentionally into a place where I can hear God speaking. I want you to be able to articulate that and write it down, because throughout the course of the year, there's going to be some unexpected things that come in your pathway. There's going to be unexpected situations. We hear people talk about grief, about health, about loss, about mindset, about relationships, about identity, about emotional roller coasters, about motherhood, about change. And those things don't come with any warning. And so it's helpful for you to be able to lean into where you are, what you're doing, and how you're able to help. That's the first question I want you to be able to think about as it relates to your purpose, your values, and your inner alignment. The second question I want you to think about, we're on the top of page 72, and I'm literally just pulling one question from each of the 25. As it relates to your family, legacy, and your support, what systems can I build to create more meaningful and consistent time with my loved ones? What systems can I build to create more meaningful and consistent time with my loved ones? One of the things that I've been really intentional about is spending time with my family. Where Patrick and I are, let's call us semi-empty nesters. So our children are adults, they're still at home, but everyone, if we're not intentional with our time, will be like passing ships in our home, because everybody's got their own priorities, their own things that they are working on, which is good, which is fine. But at the same time, I want to be intentional about creating more meaningful and consistent time with my loved ones, and I have to make sure that I schedule that time in. Otherwise, we'll get to the end of the week and we haven't seen anyone, or we'll get to the end of the week and we don't know what's happening in each other's lives. So I'm really quite intentional about that. And then the same with my extended family. I'm quite intentional about connecting with the younger members of my family. Yesterday I took them to our annual pantomime theatre trip. I normally take my younger nieces and nephews and my godchildren out to see a pantomime. And what was really, really heartwarming for me is I took one of my nieces, when I was telling her what we were going to watch, she she found it on the Disney Channel. We went to see Beauty and the Beast at the theatre. So she found Beauty and the Beast on the Disney Channel, so she could watch it on the Disney Channel so that she could follow the storyline. So whilst we were en route to the theatre, she was telling me about the story and the reason why she wanted to watch it. And it just gave me some really beautiful memories with the young children. But one of the things that came out She said, "Oh, Auntie Claudine, am I going to have to sit in between my two cousins again? Because the last time that we went out, bearing in mind that they are 5 and 6, I had to sit in between them because they were just arguing." Those are beautiful memories. Even just the fact that she remembered last year where we went out, what we did, and what took place. So that level of intentionality is about creating good memories. So the question that I'm encouraging you to think about is, what systems can you build that will create more meaningful and consistent time with your loved ones? What is it that you want to do? How can you make time? How can you create space? And the time and space could be anything. It could be going for a walk in the park. It could be, because especially when you're working with or supporting younger children, it's not about the money. It's about the togetherness. It's about the activity that they are actually doing. So I want you to think about what type of things you could be doing. Let's also go to question number 7, because I think this is really important, and this has been an even it's played an even higher priority in our conversations, as particularly as our children are getting older. So question 7 says, what conversations about inheritance, values, or shared goals have I avoided but need to initiate? So for those of you who are over 50 and you're thinking about your inheritance, you're thinking about your pensions, you're thinking about your will, you're thinking about your lasting power of attorney, you're thinking about all trusts, all of those conversations we had in 2026. We had Valerie speaking about trusts. We had other Adrian, our wealth planner, at the Link Up live event that we had. We had Dr. Janet Blair, our nutritionist, who was talking about our health. But there are some conversations that you are avoiding having with your family that you need to have. So think about what that looks like for you, and then begin to initiate those conversations. I think for too long in our community, and when I say our community, I mean in the Black community, in the African and Caribbean communities, we put off those types of conversations because they're too hard, or we're not ready for them, or we don't know where to start, or we're not sure what we should be talking about. We've been really intentional about having those conversations to prepare our children and to prepare the next generation for what life looks like as an they call it adulting, right? I'm showing my age here. They call it we're adulting. We don't want to have these conversations now because it's too premature. Well, if you don't have it now, when will you have it? And given that nobody knows the day nor the time where there's going to be a major health situation, or there's going to be an unfortunate scenario in our families, it's really important. Those are really important conversations to have. So I've listed those on page 72 for you to really get deep and forensic with yourself. And for those of you who can, share some of these conversation starter tips with your family members, so that it's not just you having these conversations or ruminating about it on your own with yourself. You can share these conversation tips with your families. All right, page 73. Question number 10 was paramount for me. Question number 10 says, if my body is a vehicle for my purpose, what maintenance does it require that I've been postponing? Let me read that again. If my body is a vehicle for my purpose, so most of you believe that you have gifts, talents, abilities that you want to share. Most of you believe that you're living a purposeful life. But what maintenance does your body, what maintenance does your temple require that you've been postponing? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating nutritional, good value food? Have you decreased your sugar intake? Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you managing your stress levels? Now, we covered a significant amount of this during our link up session in November with Dr. Janet Blair. And it's really, really, really important for you to make sure that your temple, your body that you live in, is in its optimum, at its optimum level, at its optimum place. So in the process of preparing your skills, in the process of preparing whatever it is, your plans that you're doing, that you're working on for this year, it's also important that you think about, how am I positioning am I well? Is my body at its optimum? It's one thing to have goals, but your body also needs to be in the right place. Your mind needs to be in the right frame of mind. So I want you to think about that. And as you work through on through question 11 and 12, you'll also be able to answer the rest of the questions about your health, your energy, and your longevity. I shared with you all a couple of weeks ago that I've actually taken up Taekwondo. My biggest anxiety, my biggest fear was that I was going to be the oldest one in the class. And then I got there, I'm like, hey, there's other people my age here. But I feel alive. I can feel my body doing things that I never knew that I could do. I can stretch, I can do all sorts. And my one of my big goals for 2026 is to perfect my roundhouse kick. And poor Patrick, he is now my punching bag. Like, stand here, don't move, so I can practice all my maneuvers on. I shouldn't laugh. I can practice all my maneuvers on him. But I'm encouraging you to think about what things you're going to put in place to ensure that you ensure and manage your mobility. All right, we're on page 74. I'm going to take any questions at the end. So Patricia, please do keep your question. I see your hand. Please do keep your question for when I finish. Question number 13. What financial habits or blind spots must I address now to create lasting stability and generational wealth? So the top of page 74, question number 13. What financial habits or blind spots must I address now to create lasting stability and generational wealth? And again, these are ongoing things. It's not a one-off. Think about this. One of the things that I said to my mentees at the Navigating Life link up, and we're going to be unpacking this over as we continue over the next few weeks, that I gave them a task or an assignment in that in the session to think about if we all had £5,000 and we got together as small groups, so groups of 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, that's £20,000. What could you do with £20,000 instead of just £5,000? Let me reframe that question for you. On your own, you only have £5,000. There's only so much that you could do. But imagine if four of you got together and you all put £5,000 together. Think about what you could accomplish with £20,000 as opposed to just £5,000. And at the Navigating Life live link up event, that's exactly what we did. And we came out, the delegates came out with some incredible ideas around starting businesses or purchasing businesses, purchasing properties. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start unpacking that. And for those of you who are serious, for those of you who are ready to make that investment, I'll be creating the legal frameworks that you will need in order to make that work. And when I talk about the legal frameworks, it will be the start of a brand new company. You'll have all of the appropriate documentation and shareholders agreements so that you can then start to leverage. Everybody just type that word leverage in the chat box. And thank you, Lorna, for sharing the link to the strategic planning workbook in the chat box also. But I want you this to be your year of leverage. I want you to be able to think about, if I combine my 5 with somebody else's 5, what more could we achieve together? I asked you earlier on to type the word collaboration and consistency. This is about you using what you have to achieve more. On your own, you can go so far, but together we can go further. On your own, you can go fast, but together we can go further. And this is about longevity. It's about freedom. It's about wisdom. It's about sagacity. It's about how you use your collective strength and your collective wisdom to make progress and to leverage what you have in order to grow more. All right. Question number 18 on page 75 says, what systems, partnership, or people do I need to add or release in order to scale my impact? What systems, partnerships, or people do I need to add or release to scale my impact? Listen, all of you know that there are some people in your ecosystem who are draining the very energy, the very life from your cells. You have to determine, am I going to continue to allow this to happen, or am I going to limit the access that people have to me? There are some people in my space who are great people, but I limit the access that they have to me because they are draining me, because they are not good for my productivity, because they become a noose to my purpose. So I have to be intentional about how I make this happen. I have to be intentional about how I manage the 24-hour allocation of time that I have in order to be the best version of myself. And I want you to think about for yourself how that is going, how you're going to use that in your own respective spaces and in your own respective places. Question number 21 at the top of page 76. Who in my circle challenges me to grow and who simply consumes my energy? I want you to be able to identify those people. Who challenges me to grow? There are people in my space who challenge me to grow. I like to be in their company because they stretch me. They help me increase my capacity for more. They help me understand the type of person who I am. They help me understand what I bring to the table, and they help me to bring out the best in me. You need to identify those people. Come into the Navigating Life Empowerment class Saturday after Saturday is one way to help yourself to find people who can challenge you, because there are some amazing people who come here Saturday after Saturday to continuously increase their capacity for more. And then the last question that I want you to think about is question number 24 on page 77. What experiences do I want to have before the next 5 years are over that will make me feel fully alive? Let me read that question again. What experiences do I want to have before the next 5 years are over that will make me feel fully alive? Many of you will know that for my birthday, I think for my 50th birthday and for my 46th birthday, I created 2 music videos. Oh my goodness, was I petrified? Yes, I was. But did I love it? Yes, I did. Oh my gosh, I had the time of my life. I mean, I went from like the entire creative process. I got a stylist, I got a full production team, I had vocal coaching. I had to go into the studio to do the recording for my birthday. It was a full live recording. I had I had all my family and friends around me, and as I stood in the circle to go and start singing, I was sure they could hear my heart beating. I was like, my heart was going like crazy. I stood there thinking, oh my gosh, Claudine, what have you done? You crazy, crazy woman. What are you doing? What are you thinking? And then as the music came on in the background and I stepped into my role, I sung a cover of Jill Scott's Golden, Living My Life Like It's Golden. Some of the Navigating Life Empowerment classes there, it was absolutely incredible. And every time I watch that video, I just feel myself like just coming alive. I just feel I am so glad that I did it. I mean, parts of the process was really stressful, but I learned so much about myself. I learned something different about coordination and the managing of a mammoth task of making sure my video team, my photographers, my stylists, my hair and makeup, everything was done, as well as like singing live. And when I started to do this, I'm thinking, how on earth do these musicians and entertainers do live performances with dancing routines and jumping all over the place? Like, oh my goodness, like let me just take one step at a time. But it made me feel so much joy. It made me feel alive. And then I had my family and friends there. It was just a brilliant occasion. I'm not suggesting that you do a music video. I'm just asking you the question. What is that thing that you want to do that will make you come alive? That when you sit back and look at your memories, when you sit back and think about life, when you sit back and think about the next 5 years, what are you leaning into that you can say, yeah, this is absolutely great? Because here's the other thing that I want you to think about. I want my best years to be ahead of me. I don't want to sit back and think, oh yeah, last year, last decade, that was great. I want my future to be great. I want to be excited about what I'm living for. I want to be excited about what I'm waking up in the morning for. I want to be excited about what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, the people who I'm partnering with. My decade of distinction is about creating new working relationships, making sure that the legacy pieces, the volunteering that I'm doing is adding value to other ecosystems so that I can recognize and embrace with a full assurance that my best years are ahead of me and not behind me, because I've got so much to live for. And that's one of the reasons why strategic planning is important. I want you to be intentional about your progress. I want you to be intentional about where it is that you are going. I want you to be intentional about the way how you spend and invest your time, your resource, your talent. Long gone are the days where we are sitting doom scrolling on social media, where we are scrolling through Netflix. And don't get me wrong, of course, there is a time and a place for all of those things, but the majority of your time should be on building yourself so that you can enjoy your life, building yourself so that the legacy that you leave, so that the conversations that you have are helping you to build uphill habits. And the reason why this is important is because what got you here to 2026, what got you here, more is going to be required of you to get you into that next phase or that next season of life. And so it's important for us to have or to take a forensic look at our habits. It's important for us to take a forensic look at the things that are pulling us down. And it's important to understand the things that will help to build us up so that we can truly live a life that God has empowered you to live.